Okay, so usually when we kick off one of these deep dives, I've got a whole setup. A stack of articles, maybe a new hardcover, a dozen tabs open on my laptop with the latest research.
Right.
But today, well, today's different. I'm just holding a few sheets of paper.
Right.
And they're not from some peer-reviewed journal or anything. It's a very strange hybrid document.
I noticed that you've been kind of guarding those pages like they're state secrets ever since I walked in. You wouldn't even let me glance at the title.
In a way, they kind of are. Maybe not state secrets, but let's call them cosmic classified. It's this really odd mix. Part theological essay, part linguistic detective work, and part poetry. And honestly, after spending a week with it, it's a little terrifying.
Terrifying. That's a strong word. Before we started recording, you pitched this to me as a hydrogen bomb. You literally said, I have a hydrogen bomb for theology.
I did. And I'm sticking with that because that's what it feels like. It's a hydrogen bomb disguised as a short, unassuming poem. The document we're going to unpack today is titled Easter as New Creation, and the whole thing revolves around a poem written in Indonesian. It's called Pasca dan Penciptaan.
Okay, which I'm assuming you are going to be translating for me because my Indonesian is, let's just say, less than 0.
I am. And that's kind of the whole setup for today because it's a bit unusual. I've got the source material, I can read the original language, and I've, for lack of a better term, ridden the analysis, or at least I've spent the last week living inside it, digging into the Greek, checking the Hebrew, just trying to figure out the architecture of this thing.
I'm coming in completely cold. I haven't seen the essay, haven't read the poem. So my job today is what? To be the skeptical theologian, to kick the tires on this whole argument.
Exactly that. I want you to test the logic. I need you to push back. Because what we're trying to do here, what this paper claims to do, is solve one of the weirdest, most uncomfortable, and frankly, one of the most confusing mysteries in the entire Bible.
I do love a good biblical mystery. Which one are we tackling?
We are tackling what I've started calling the zombie problem of Good Friday.
Oh, boy. Matthew 27.
Matthew 27.
Yeah, that is the elephant in the room for Passion Week, isn't it? It's the passage that everyone, even pastors, sort of reads quickly to get to the good stuff on Sunday morning.
They absolutely do.
For anyone listening who might not have a Bible handy or who's maybe glossed over this part 100 times, in the Gospel of Matthew, right at the moment Jesus dies on the cross, the text says the earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open.
Right. Total cosmic chaos.
But then it gets really weird. It says, the bodies of many holy people who had died were raised. And then it says they came out of their tombs and went into Jerusalem and appeared to many people.
Exactly. And the popular idea, the one you sort of absorb from bad religious art or really awkward Sunday school lessons, is that the moment Jesus died, a bunch of, zombies, a bunch of reanimated corpses just started shambling around Jerusalem.
And it's so awkward for a bunch of reasons. First, the timeline is a mess. If they rose on Friday, but Jesus is supposed to be the first fruits of the resurrection on Sunday morning, what were these people doing for 2.5 days?
Right. Just hanging out, hiding in the bushes at the cemetery until Sunday.
Were they playing cards? Did they go home and knock on the door? Honey, I'm home, but I can't come in until Sunday morning. The timing isn't right. It makes no sense.
And the theological implications are, frankly, horrific if you follow them through. If they were raised in the same way Lazarus was, coming back to their old biological lives, that means they had to die again.
A second time? And that's not a victory, that's a tragedy. Lazarus had to go through death twice. If these saints, and Matthew calls them holy people, were raised on Friday just to walk around for a bit and then drop dead again a few weeks later, it feels less like a miracle and more like a cruel, practical joke.
It feels like a plot hole. It feels like Matthew got a little carried away in the moment and messed up the chronology of his own story.
Yeah, exactly.
But what if it's not a plot hole? What if we've just been reading it wrong this whole time? What if we've been reading it with our modern 21st century biological eyes and not with ancient theological eyes? The source material I'm holding claims to solve this. And not just solve it, but transform it from this awkward, weird moment into something profoundly beautiful.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
But to get there, we have to do some pretty heavy lifting first. We have to start with the Greek.
All right, let's do it. You said this was a linguistic detective story. Lay out the first clue.
The first clue is always about the words that an author doesn't use. That's the core conflict the essay starts with. Like you said, the text says tombs broke open on Friday, but then later it specifies the saints appeared after his resurrection, which is Sunday. The essay argues that the confusion isn't in the text, it's in our heads. It's a translation problem.
Okay, go on.
Let's start with the word, corpses. If you were a doctor writing a medical report about dead bodies or, a horror writer describing the undead, the Greek word you'd reach for is tuma.
Tuma. Yeah, that sounds familiar, like the root of ptomaine poisoning, which comes from decaying flesh.
Exactly. It literally means a fallen thing,
Yeah.
a carcass. It's a cold, clinical, biological term for a lifeless husk. And here's the kicker. Matthew knows this word. He uses it elsewhere in his own gospel. In chapter 24, when Jesus is talking about the end times, he says, "Wherever there is a carcass, tuma, there the vultures will gather." So he has the word in his vocabulary.
But he doesn't use it here.
He specifically avoids it.
That's incredibly significant. An author, especially one writing something this important, doesn't just switch up his vocabulary by accident. That's a deliberate choice. So what word does he use instead of tuma?
He uses the word kekoimemen.
Kekoimamen. Okay, that's from the verb koimash, right?
Yes, exactly. And it means to sleep.
Ah.
But it's more than that. It's a relational term. It's personal. It's almost gentle. Throughout the entire New Testament, when believers die, they're not called corpses. Paul constantly refers to them as those who are sleeping or those who have fallen asleep.
Okay, so that immediately changes the entire tone. We're not talking about biological waste being reanimated here. We're talking about people who are, in a sense, just resting.
Precisely. The language itself is pointing us away from a zombie movie. But it gets deeper. The text says their bodies were raised. The Greek word here is schumata.
Right, shuma.
Now, in modern English, when we hear the word body, our mind immediately goes to biology. We think of flesh and blood, cells, organs, decay. If I say raise the body, you think of Frankenstein's monster on a slab.
The meat suit, basically.
The meat suit. But summa in ancient Greek philosophy and theology was a much more flexible concept. It meant something more like a vessel of existence, a mode of presence.
Paul talks about that, doesn't he? A spiritual body, a summa pneumaticon.
He does. In 1 Corinthians 15, he makes it clear that a body isn't just organic matter. It's the vehicle your consciousness uses to be present and active in a particular realm. You have a physical body, a spiritual body, a glorified body. The summa is just the form you take.
So it doesn't necessarily mean the reinflation of a decaying biological shell. It could mean being given a new form of presence.
It absolutely could. And then there's the final word, the verb raised. It's ogorthesin. This word is often translated as resurrected, but its more common meaning is simply to be woken up or to be restored to an active status. It's the word used when someone literally wakes up from a night's sleep or when a sick person gets out of bed.
So it's not necessarily about the biological reconstruction of a rotted cadaver. It's about a change in state from inactive to active.
It's a divine wake-up call. God is the one doing the eugarthesis, he's rousing them.
Okay, so let's put all those pieces together. If Matthew deliberately avoids the word for carcass, and instead uses the word for sleepers, kekoimemention, and he's talking about their vessels of presence, sumata, being woken up, ogorthesin, then the essay is arguing that he is absolutely not describing The Walking Dead. This isn't a scene from a George Romero movie.
Not at all. He is describing a fundamental change in their status.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see where this is headed. It's an elegant solution to the language problem, but we still have that nagging timeline issue. Friday versus Sunday. Why would the tombs physically break open on Friday if these woken sleepers didn't actually show up in the city until Sunday?
This is the next big step in the argument. And this is where the source material introduces two incredibly useful terms. It makes a distinction between the ontological event and the manifestative event.
Oh, I like those words. They sound very serious. But let's break that down for the listener who didn't major in philosophy.
Definitely. Ontological comes from the Greek word for being. It refers to the state of things as they truly are, in their actual essence, regardless of whether anyone can see it or not. It's about the deep reality.
And manifestative.
That's about what is revealed, what becomes visible or perceivable to the human eye. It's the appearance of that deeper reality.
Okay, that makes sense. Reality versus the appearance of reality. So apply that framework to Good Friday.
On Friday, Jesus cries out, "It is finished," and he dies. At that exact moment, the curtain in the temple tears from top to bottom. The earth shakes. The rocks split. The tombs are broken open. The source argues that this is the ontological event.
The change in reality itself.
Yes, the domain of death, what the Old Testament calls Sheol, or the Greeks call Hades, the sort of cosmic holding tank for the dead, is fundamentally broken. Its power is shattered.
The essay uses the term legal liberation, if I remember your pitch.
It does. Think of it like a prison break, but one where the judge, in a cosmic courtroom, slams down the gavel and says, "Debt paid in full." And at that moment, all the electronic locks on all the cell doors just pop open simultaneously. The sleepers are woken up. Their status changes ontologically from prisoner to legally free.
But they don't actually walk out of their cells yet.
Exactly. The tomb's open. The barrier between the realm of the dead and the living is breached. But they don't appear in the city yet, and why not?
Because the king has to walk out first.
The king has to walk out first.
That makes perfect theological sense. Jesus has to be the first fruits from the dead, like Paul says. You can't have the opening act going on stage before the headliner. The entourage can't leave the building before the VIP.
It's the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So Friday is the jailbreak. It's the unlocking of the cells. It's the ontological reality shifting under everyone's feet.
Okay.
But Sunday is the parade.
Sunday is the manifestative event.
Yes. After Jesus rises, victorious, as the firstborn from the dead, then and only then are these saints permitted to appear. And the essay makes another crucial point here about the nature of that appearance. It argues they appear as witnesses.
Witnesses.
Like angels appear, or like Moses and Elijah at the Transfiguration. They aren't just guys who have to go back to their old lives, file their taxes, and then die a second time. They are emissaries from a new reality.
And that solves the whole second death problem, which has always been the biggest sticking point for me. If Lazarus is raised, he has to die again, and that's deeply tragic. But if these saints appear as temporary, glorified witnesses of the resurrection,
then it's a temporary manifestation, a sneak peek. They're testifying that the old order of death has been definitively broken. They're essentially, I don't know, like holograms of the new creation being projected into the old city to announce the war is over, our side won.
Okay, that is so much cleaner and more theologically sound than the zombie theory. It respects the Greek, it respects the primacy of Jesus' resurrection, but there's still a gap in the timeline, isn't there?
The gap, yes.
We have Friday, the ontological jailbreak. We have Sunday, the manifestative appearance. But what about Saturday? What in the world is happening on Holy Saturday?
This is where the source material gets truly fascinating. And this is where we start to transition from the cool linguistic analysis of the essay into the much deeper, more mystical world of the poetry. Because, think about it, how do we normally treat Holy Saturday?
It's the day of silence. It's the empty day. In almost every sermon I've ever heard, it's just a pause. We talk about the grief of the disciples, the silence of God. It's the day where supposedly nothing happens. We just fast forward from the tomb to the resurrection.
It's the day we go shopping for our Easter ham.
Right. It's an intermission.
The source material argues the absolute opposite. It argues that the Sabbath is not empty. It is a day of intense, hidden, divine work.
Hidden work. How so?
Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning, the very first Sabbath in history. Genesis chapter 2. It says God rested on the seventh day. Now, does God get tired? Does the infinite creator of the entire universe need to take a nap?
No. That's a classic anthropomorphism. Omnipotent beings don't run out of stamina. The prophet Isaiah is pretty clear on that. He will not grow tired or weary.
So why did he rest? The essay argues that he rested from a certain kind of work. The work shifted. It moved from ex nihilo creation, making brand new things out of nothing, to a work of maintenance, or filling, or settling. It wasn't the cessation of all activity. It was the completion of one phase and the beginning of another.
Okay, I can see that. The architect puts down the hammer because the house is built, but now he begins the work of inhabiting it, of ordering the furniture.
That's a great way to put it. Now, apply that same logic to the Easter Sabbath. The physical body of Jesus is in the tomb, resting. But where is his spirit?
Well, the Apostles' Creed says he descended into hell, or descended to the dead. The tradition, based on passages like 1 Peter 3, is that he went and made a proclamation to the spirits in prison, the harrowing of hell.
Right, and this essay describes that Saturday as a period of cosmic incubation. The light of the world has entered the darkness. Sheol, Hades, the realm of the dead on Friday. But it hasn't dawned on the earth yet. It's gestating.
Gestating. That's a really interesting word choice. It implies pregnancy. It implies something is about to be born.
It does.
Yeah.
And it's meant to connect us directly to a very specific, very powerful Hebrew word from the first verses of Genesis. The word is rachaf.
Rachaf. That's the spirit hovering over the waters.
Yes. Genesis 1:2. The earth was without form and void, Tohu wa-Bohu, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering rachaf over the face of the waters.
I see the parallel immediately. You have the chaos of the first creation, the formless void, and you have the chaos of death's realm, Sheol.
And the essay's core argument about Saturday is that the Spirit of Jesus was doing exactly what the Holy Spirit did in Genesis. He was rachafing. He was hovering over the chaos of death, brooding over it, preparing to give birth to a new creation from within the belly of the old one.
So Saturday isn't a day of inaction at all. It's a day of cosmic reordering.
It might be the busiest, most creatively intense day in the history of the cosmos, but it all happened underground, in the dark. It was the dark room where the new photograph of reality was developing.
That actually gives me chills. It completely reframes the silence of that day. It's not the silence of absence. It's the silence of intense concentration.
Concentration. I love that. And that is the perfect setup for the poem. The author of this essay also wrote a short poem that tries to capture this whole narrative. It's titled, again, Pascha dan Pensipten Easter and Creation.
And this is the part you're going to read for us.
Yes. What I want to do is read the whole thing straight through in the original Indonesian first. I just want you to listen to the sound, the rhythm, the cadence of it. You won't get the words yet, but try to feel the architecture of the theology in the sound itself. It has this very old, almost creed-like feeling to it.
I'm ready. Let's hear it.
Okay. This is Pascha dan Penciptaan pada malam perjamuan kudus. Gereja diciptakan dari daging dan darah Yesus. Jumat pertama dan Jumat kedua. Yesus disalib mati dicurah dipejah bagi tubis manusia. Jempa dan kubur terbelah berarti celah di tingkap tertinggi perahu Nuh. Tabir terbelah telah bergerak keluar dari diamnya. Ia turun kembali ke alam Cosek i gelap abadi. Seperti rotarang i melayang racaf di atas Tohu wa-Bohu, gelap kelam terguncang. Jiwa-jiwa setia pada terang terlepaskan. Raja tersalib mati bersama, kini menanti pakaian sementara. Satu malam Sabat itu tiba. Terbayang ditatanya alam itu dalam 6 masa. Lalu ia kembali di masa ke-7. Serta naik dengan para tahunan dibebaskan. Pada pagi hari pertama minggu setelah Sabat Paskah, terbit terang hari pertama sebagai hari ke-7 tanpa malam. Ia menghembuskan pakaian damai sejahtera. Gereja dilahirkan bersama kebangkitannya. Pentakosta tiba, satu hukum turun diam dalam kita. Parakletus resmi diami tabutnya sendiri. Incubated. Gereja tiba pada akhir balik untuk tugas menginjili dia.
Wow. It was very musical. Very rhythmic. I could pick out a few cognates, yes, obviously. Sabat, Pentecosta, but even without understanding the meaning, it felt heavy. Like a procession, a march through time.
It is a march. That's a great description. It's a march through salvation history.
Yeah.
So let's translate this and let's go stanza by stanza because the imagery is incredibly dense. Almost every single line is a direct reference to another part of the Bible.
Okay, walk me through it. I'm ready.
The first stanza. At the night of the Holy Communion, the church was created from the flesh and blood of Jesus. So right away, the poem argues that the church wasn't born at Pentecost, but at the Last Supper table. It was created from the body of Christ, just like Eve was created from the rib of the first Adam.
That's a powerful start. It places the origin of the church before the cross itself. It makes it a creation out of the side of the second Adam, even before he was wounded.
Exactly. Stanza 2. First Friday and second Friday, Jesus crucified, died, poured out, broken for human redemption. Then it moves to the earthquake. But listen to this specific image. Earthquake and tomb split open like the gap in the highest window of Noah's Ark.
Whoa. The window at the very top of the ark. The one Noah had to open to release the dove and see if the world was new again.
That's the one. The poem is reframing the tombs breaking open. It wasn't a horror show with things crawling out. It was a ventilation shaft. It was the first crack of light and air into the suffocating, sealed hold of the ship after the flood of death.
That changes everything about the imagery. It's not monsters coming out. It's fresh air coming in. It's a signal that the flood is receding.
Right. Stanza 3. The veil torn. God moves out of his silence. And then this. He descends back to the realm of Cosek, eternal darkness. Cosek is the Hebrew word for a deep, primordial darkness. Like the spirit of light hovering Rachaf over Tohu wa-Bohu. There it is. The direct connection we just talked about. Jesus descending into the chaos to hover over it.
So he's explicitly reenacting Genesis 1 in the underworld. It's not just a parallel. The poem makes it the central action.
It's the central action of Saturday. Now, stanza 4. Darkness shaken, souls faithful to the light released, the church crucified, dying together, now waiting for temporary close. This is a beautiful reference to 2 Corinthians 5, where Paul says we groan, longing to be closed with our heavenly dwelling.
Okay, so this is the Friday event we talked about, the ontological liberation, the waking up of the sleepers. They're free, but they're waiting for what's next.
Now we get to stanza 5, and this is the absolute heart of the poem. This is the Sabbath. One day and one night of Sabbath arrived, imagined. He arranged that realm in 6 periods.
Wait, can you read that second line again?
Imagine he arranged that realm in 6 periods.
6 periods, happening inside the one day of Sabbath.
That's what the poem suggests, that inside that single 24-hour period of rest, Jesus was compressing a full 6-day reenactment of the creation week. He was taking the Tohu wa-Bohu of death and bringing order to it, day by day, period by period.
So the Sabbath becomes a microcosm, a compressed fractal version of the entire creation week. He's not just reenacting one moment of Genesis, he's reenacting the whole thing.
The whole thing. And then stanza 6. Then he returns in the 7th era and ascends with the captives who were released on the morning of the first day, Sunday, after the Passover Sabbath.
So Sunday becomes the 8th day of the old week, which is the new first day of the new creation.
And the final stanza, 7, brings it all home to us. Rising light of the first day, as the 7th day without night, Pentecost arrives. The Paraclete officially inhabits his own ark, inhabit El. The church arrives at adulthood for the task of evangelizing the world. It connects the whole story right up to the present mission of the church.
Okay, that is an absolutely sweeping theological vision. It ties together the Last Supper, Noah's Ark, Genesis, the Exodus, the crucifixion, and Pentecost into one single coherent narrative. It's incredibly beautiful.
Isn't it? It completely reframes Easter. It's not just a rescue mission to save individuals. It's a full reboot of the entire operating system of the universe.
It definitely does that. It makes the resurrection the absolute pivot point of all cosmic history. But hang on a second.
What is it?
Can we just go back to that middle section, the part about the Sabbath?
Stanza 5. One day and one night of Sabbath arrived. Imagined. He arranged that realm in 6 periods.
Yes, that line, and the lines right before it, in stanza 4, you translated it as the souls faithful to the light were released.
I did, yeah. That's the ontological liberation that happened on Friday. The chains break, the locks spring open.
Okay, so if I'm tracking the timeline that this poem is laying out, on Friday, the captives are set free, they are woken up, the Kikoi men are now awake and aware.
Right. The sleepers are awake.
But they don't ascend to heaven yet. The poem is clear, they ascend with Jesus on Sunday.
Correct. Stanza 6 says, he ascends with the captives who were released.
So, where are they on Saturday? What are they doing?
Oh, well, they're there.
Yeah.
They're in the realm of the dead, Sheol, or Hades, or whatever we call it. But they're free now. They're not prisoners anymore.
They are there, standing there, watching, while Jesus is, as the poem says, arranging the realm in 6 periods.
Yes, I suppose they are.
Do you realize what that implies?
That they were. Waiting for Sunday?
It's more than just waiting. I'm looking at the notes you sent over before we started. The source material included a chat log where this was discussed, right? There was a biblical reference in there that didn't make sense to me at the time, but it just clicked into place.
A reference. Which one?
The one from the book of Job, Job chapter 38, verse 7.
Job. Let me see. Yeah. Here, Job 38.7.
Could you read that verse for me?
Sure. It says, while the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy.
Okay, now the context. What is happening in Job 38?
That's God speaking to Job from the whirlwind. He's putting Job in his place, basically. He's asking him, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth?
Exactly. God is describing the act of the first creation. He says, I was there, I laid the cornerstone, I set the boundaries for the sea, and then he asks, essentially, who was watching when I did all this? Who is the audience?
The morning stars.
Yeah.
And all the angels, the sons of God.
The angels. In the first creation in Genesis, God worked, and the heavenly host, the angels, watched. They were the witnesses.
Yeah.
They saw the chaos of Tohu wa-Bohu get transformed into perfect order, and they shouted for joy because they were seeing the masterpiece being unveiled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Now look at the poem again. According to this poem, we have a new creation taking place on Holy Saturday.
Yeah.
Jesus is in the underworld, reordering the Tohu wa-Bohu of death. He's doing the work of Genesis all over again.
Yes.
Who is watching this time?
Yeah.
The angels aren't mentioned as being in Sheol, who is standing right there, unbound, eyes wide open, having just been released from their sleep.
The captives, the holy ones.
The church,
Oh.
the Old Testament saints, the church in its embryonic form. They are standing there in the silence of Saturday, and they are watching God perform the new creation.
Wait a minute. Are you saying...
Just as the angels watched the first world being made, redeemed humanity is watching the new world being made from the inside.
I completely missed that. I honestly thought the poem was just about him resting or getting them organized for the trip to heaven.
It's not about logistics, it's about witness. The poem says, imagined. He arranged that realm. Who is doing the imagining? Who is the spectator? The poem implies that the church, the very saints from Matthew 27, they are the audience for the single greatest creative act in cosmic history. They got front row seats.
And that That changes everything about that phrase from Job, the sons of God.
Doesn't it? In the Old Testament, the sons of God are angelic beings. But in the New Testament, who are the sons of God, John's gospel says, to all who received him, he gave the right to become children of God. We are.
So the official witnesses have changed.
The baton has been passed from the angelic to the human. The angels watch the first creation. Redeemed humanity gets to watch the second.
That's why they could appear on Sunday.
Yeah.
They weren't just testifying, hey, guess what? I'm not dead anymore.
No, they were testifying, you have no idea what we just saw. We were there. We saw him do it. We saw him build the new kingdom from the rubble of the old one, from the inside out.
This little poem,
Yeah.
when I called it a hydrogen bomb, I
Right.
meant it was theologically explosive because of the linguistic details, the tuma and the summa.
Mhm.
But this is a completely different kind of nuclear reaction.
It transforms the Sabbath from a day of silent grief into a day of cosmic spectacle. But it's a spectacle that was seen only by the dead.
Only by the dead.
Hmm.
The disciples were upstairs, hiding in a locked room, thinking it was all over, that God was silent. But downstairs, in the basement of the universe,
Downstairs, the lights were coming on, one by one, for 6 periods, and the redeemed captives were standing there watching the master at work. Oh my Jesus.
yeah, oh my Jesus is about the only right response.
It makes you tremble a little bit, doesn't it? The sheer scale of it.
There's an Indonesian phrase, jantar dan jematar. It means a kind of awe-filled trembling and shaking. That's what this feels like.
It's terrifyingly beautiful because it puts humanity, it puts the church right at the center of God's creative work, not just as the beneficiaries of it, but as the chosen witnesses, the ones he specifically wanted to share the moment with.
He didn't want to do it alone. He woke them up on Friday so that they could watch on Saturday.
That had to be the reason. He wanted an audience. He wanted his family to see it.
You know, we started this whole deep dive talking about Greek verbs and zombie movies.
We did. We thought we were just, correcting a common but awkward translation, a little bit of theological housekeeping.
We tried to analyze it, to break it down into its component parts, but you can't. Not this.
No, you can't analyze this. You just have to stand there in silence like they did.
I am almost speechless.
Me too.